But a new discovery could upend what we do know. According to a recent study, lumpy metallic rocks in the deepest reaches of the ocean could be making oxygen, or what's being called dark oxygen.
5,000 meters beneath the ocean's surface, scientists have made a discovery that's sending shockwaves across the globe. It may sound like science fiction, but this mysterious object appears capable of generating electricity and possibly even producing oxygen without any signs of life. Even more staggering, it's estimated to be worth over $3 trillion. Now, the world's wealthiest are scrambling for control. What exactly is this terrifying deep-sea find? Stay with us as we reveal the truth behind the ocean's most unsettling secret. What is in the ocean's basement? Deep in a far-off part of the Pacific Ocean between the sunny shores of Hawaii and Mexico's coastline lies one of the planet's last untouched frontiers. Known as the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, or CCZ, this massive stretch of ocean floor spreads across an area so wide, over 4.5 million square kilometers, that it's larger than the entire European Union. What makes this place feel so alien isn't just its size, but the way it sits silently beneath the waves, nearly 5,500 meters down where the water is freezing cold and the pressure is so strong. When we talk about pressure, it's 500 times greater than what we feel at sea level. No sunlight has ever reached this mysterious depth, and everything about it seems like a hidden world of its own. For years, companies with their eyes on profit have been drawn to this eerie, unexplored deep. That's because the ocean floor here is sprinkled with valuable chunks of metal like copper, cobalt, nickel, and manganese, just lying there, and they are potentially worth billions. But in 2021, a team of curious scientists led by Dr. Andrew Sweetman from the Scottish Association for Marine Science set off on a completely different kind of mission. During the mission, they were chasing after air, and what they were after wasn't the kind of air we breathe directly, but they were looking for traces of oxygen that trickle slowly through the deep mud where life still stubbornly survives. Even in a place so cold, dark, and crushing, strange little organisms manage to cling to life by feeding on tiny amounts of oxygen that drift down from the ocean above. The scientists believe that by studying how this oxygen moves through the deep-sea mud, they could learn a lot about life in extreme environments and how human actions, like underwater mining, might mess up the delicate balance that keeps it all going. To explore this secret world, they used incredible machines called landers. These are like smart underwater robots that sink by themselves to the seafloor and run experiments without needing a person to guide them. Each lander carried special tools like tiny labs that could take samples of mud and water, and oxygen sensors that would tell the researchers how much oxygen the microbes were using. From the look of things, it was a clever plan. By tracking how quickly oxygen disappeared in the chambers, the team could figure out how active these deep-living creatures really were. But something strange happened. Instead of showing a drop in oxygen, which they expected as the microbes used it up, the readings showed oxygen going up. At first, they assumed it was just a mistake. After all, when working in such extreme places, nothing is guaranteed because salt water can damage even the toughest gear. The freezing temperatures and crushing pressure can bend metal, wreck electronics, and cause all kinds of trouble. Still, the team didn't give up. They took another look at the machines. They tweaked the sensors. They ran the same tests again and again. Then, they sent new landers to different spots on the ocean floor, hoping to figure out what was really going on. Whatever mystery was hiding down there, they were really determined to find it. But even after trying everything they could think of, the strange results kept coming. Instead of watching the oxygen slowly drop, just like it should when living things are using it, the researchers saw it climbing. Time after time, the air levels rose. It was so bizarre, it left the team stunned. Something deep below, in the silent, pitch-black ocean floor, seemed to be breaking the rules of science, and no one could explain why. What made this even more mind-blowing was that this wasn't some quick experiment. It had taken 5 whole years, with so many tests and trips, to finally land on this conclusion. For as long as science has existed, everyone's known that plants and algae make air through photosynthesis, using sunlight to split water molecules and release oxygen. But now, in a place where sunlight has never touched, where darkness is endless and heavy, oxygen was showing up out of nowhere. It was like finding flames underwater. The team had to open their minds to some bold possibilities. Could the metals and minerals in the mud somehow react with seawater to make oxygen? Could there be an unknown chemical process happening right under our noses? Or maybe there was a brand new type of life hiding in the depths, doing something completely different to survive, something we've never seen or imagined before. But this wasn't just an exciting puzzle for scientists to talk about in quiet rooms. The meaning behind it stretched far beyond academic curiosity. If oxygen can be created without the help of sunlight or even traditional living things, then everything we believe about how life works in the deep sea might need to be rewritten. It might even help us understand how early life existed on Earth, back when there wasn't much oxygen in the air. And then, looking even further out, it could help scientists figure out if life might be hiding on other planets, or moons like Europa or Enceladus. These are places buried under oceans of ice, where the sun never shines but where chemical reactions might still make life possible. Almost overnight, the Clarion-Clipperton Zone changed from being just a treasure chest of metals to something way more valuable, a real-life science lab sitting quietly at the bottom of the ocean, holding secrets we've never dreamed of. And those same shiny nodules that mining companies are so eager to grab, they might actually be part of the mystery. Maybe they play a role in the strange way oxygen is being made down there. Apart from the mystery behind the oxygen, there's something more strange about the ocean basement. Keep watching to find out. A hidden intelligence beneath the ocean. Something strange was happening deep under the ocean, and it was changing everything the researchers thought they knew. As they studied the latest data from their underwater drones, a strange and unexpected discovery hit them hard. The seafloor wasn't just lying there quietly, hidden beneath 5 kilometers of pitch-black water. It was moving. It was reshaping itself into beautiful and terrifying designs, like shapes that no one could explain with normal science. The ground wasn't behaving like ordinary rock or mud anymore. It was twisting itself into perfect spirals, smooth and balanced like the shell of a nautilus. Other parts were forming patterns that looked like city blocks, laid out in near-perfect right angles. There were repeating designs that were so complex and flawless that even mathematicians would stop and stare. The ridges snapped together like puzzle pieces, forming a pattern too precise to be a natural accident. What made it even more puzzling was that the materials forming these shapes didn't match the dirt and rock around them. It was like the rocks themselves had decided to reshape into something meaningful. One of the lead researchers, Sweetman, kept adjusting his glasses, as if doing so would make the images make more sense. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This wasn't the result of water slowly wearing things down or natural erosion. Things got even stranger when they began comparing photos taken just a few hours apart. The patterns were actually changing in a definite way. The long ridges were growing, stretching out like fingers made of crystal. The spirals were tightening, drawing inwards. The straight grid lines were slowly pushing their borders outward. It was like watching the ground take a breath, rearranging itself in painfully slow motion. So the team set up time-lapse cameras, clicking photos over hours and days, and what they saw was unlike anything they'd ever witnessed. One crew member quietly muttered that this wasn't just geology anymore. It felt like the Earth itself was thinking very slowly. Then came the electromagnetic readings, and things got even weirder. Tiny shifts in the magnetic field matched every little movement in the pattern below. Whenever the designs changed shape, there was a small pulse in the energy around them. From the look of it, it wasn't random. There was a rhythm to it, like a sleeping giant's heartbeat. First, a jolt of energy, and afterwards a repeated movement and silence. Night after night, the team stayed up trying to figure it out. They tested every possible theory. Could it be heat from deep below, like a hydrothermal vent? Certainly, you'll know that it's not it because there was no heat, but there it was, right in front of them. A clear physical proof that something was changing the ocean floor. Something real, yet totally outside the rules of science they had trusted for years. Then they pulled up old maps, ones made decades ago. That's when the real chill set in. The same patterns had been there before, just fainter, simpler, but they were there. That meant this wasn't something new. It had been growing all along, changing slowly under everyone's radar. And now, with the cameras pointed directly at it, the shapes seemed to be shifting even faster, as if they knew they were being watched. At one point, a heavy silence filled the control room. The question no one dared to say out loud echoed in their minds. Were they just looking at something strange? So, let's find out what they actually saw. The deep sea mystery. Whenever something strange shows up in science, the first thing researchers do is look for the most reasonable explanation. That's exactly what happened when unexpected oxygen readings started coming from deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. For the scientists, the most likely reason had to be tiny, invisible life forms. Even though the deep ocean is dark, cold, and incredibly remote, it isn't empty. In fact, microorganisms have been found in some of the harshest parts of the world, buried in dry dirt, frozen inside ice, and even clinging to the edges of boiling underwater vents. These little survivors don't even need air or sunlight to live. They rely on chemicals like sulfur, methane, or iron instead. So, when Dr. Andrew Sweetman and his research group from the Scottish Association for Marine Science picked up rising oxygen levels in special chambers placed deep in the Clarion-Clipperton zone, they had one clear theory. Maybe some strange microbe was alive down there, hidden in the seabed, creating the oxygen. To find out for sure, they began a new round of tests. The goal was to remove all living things from the picture, to see if oxygen would still rise even in a lifeless environment. They used a special method. The team filled the chambers, tools that trap small amounts of ocean floor mud and seawater, with powerful biocides. These are strong chemicals designed to eliminate any living cell by breaking their walls or stopping their ability to function. The goal was to completely clean out the mud, making sure no bacteria or other tiny creatures could interfere with the results. It was a necessary step. If the oxygen levels kept going up even after everything alive had been wiped out, then something else, something non-living, was causing it. After carefully preparing the experiment, they lowered the sterilized chambers back down to the seafloor, almost 5,000 meters deep. The sensors were set. The chambers rested silently in the darkness, surrounded by untouched mud, while the research team stayed on the ship above, waiting. Everyone expected the oxygen to either stay the same or slowly drop. Without microbes to create it, there shouldn't have been any rise at all. But when the numbers came back, what they saw surprised them. The oxygen wasn't dropping, rather it was climbing again. And that one quiet result changed everything. Even after completely removing all the tiny living suspects from the deep-sea chambers, the strange pattern didn't go away. The scientists couldn't brush it off as a simple glitch or faulty machine anymore. What they were seeing had now become a regular result, confirmed again and again under strict and careful conditions. Yet no matter how much they analyzed it, it still didn't add up in any normal or scientific way. This pushed the team to dig deeper. So they ran more tests, added extra controls, and switched up the methods they used to clean out the microbes. They tried different chemical strengths, adjusted the size and shape of the chambers, and moved their experiments to several different areas across the Clarion-Clipperton zone. But every time, no matter what they changed or where they tried it, the result was the same. Oxygen kept showing up where it shouldn't. The mystery started to grow. If it wasn't bacteria or any other living thing, then what could possibly be behind it? Dr. Sweetman and his team realized they needed more minds. They reached out to other researchers who knew the ocean inside out. Together, they talked with geologists, marine chemists, and deep-sea specialists. They even went through old data from previous ocean studies, trying to spot anything they might have missed. Could it be some unknown chemical reaction creating the oxygen? Was something happening between the muddy seabed and the salt water that science hadn't noticed before? Or was there an entirely new reason that no one had discovered yet? That thought alone was unsettling. Normally, living things are the unpredictable part in any ocean experiment. Life can confuse results or behave in unexpected ways. But now that they had fully removed life from the scene, they were staring at something even more puzzling. They were witnessing a strange behavior in the seafloor that didn't match anything they had ever seen before. It felt like chasing a ghost. No matter what they did, the same quiet breath of air continued to rise from the depths. That's when the researchers felt a new kind of energy growing among them. It was no longer just a confusing test result. It was the start of something much bigger. At that moment, a new question formed in their minds. Could the ocean floor be hiding more than just valuable minerals? And this is where everything got really interesting. So, stay tuned to know what's there. Are manganese nodules alive? Back in 2022, while Dr. Andrew Sweetman was attending a presentation on deep-sea mining, something caught his attention. One of the speakers casually made a comment describing something found deep underwater as batteries in a rock. Most people in the room didn't think much of it because it was just a simple way to explain complex mineral behavior. But for Sweetman, that throwaway phrase hit like lightning. He couldn't ignore it. It was the kind of moment that makes you stop everything and think again. What the speaker was referring to were manganese nodules, something that looks like strange and lumpy rocks found on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. These weren't new to Sweetman. In fact, he and his team had been studying them closely in a remote region of the ocean floor called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. This area stretches between Mexico and Hawaii and is incredibly vast. For over a year, they had been collecting data from that place. It had always been known for its untouched mineral wealth, attracting interest from mining companies. But what Sweetman and his team were looking into had nothing to do with mining profits. Something much more intriguing was unfolding. Their instruments had been picking up strange results like random data that didn't fit any usual pattern. At first, most scientists believed these deep-sea nodules were just lifeless chunks of metal sitting on the seafloor. But what if they weren't so passive after all? What if they were actually doing something? The team knew that when seawater interacts with certain minerals, it can sometimes create tiny electrical charges. That idea alone was curious, but when they tested their samples, the results were shocking. Under specific conditions, these nodules gave off faint traces of electricity. It wasn't enough to feel or see, but it was real. This wasn't just a cool discovery. It completely reshaped how they saw these ocean rocks. They might not just be dead minerals lying there. They could be active parts of the environment, possibly playing a role in how the deep ocean works. That idea opened the door to many more questions. Could this tiny electric activity affect the strange creatures that live down there in the dark? What could it mean for the ocean's chemistry? And what happens if humans start digging these nodules up without understanding how they really work? The risks could be bigger than anyone expected. A constant electric signal. Something unusual happened later while the team was working inside the lab on their research ship, which was floating far away from land, right above one of the most remote corners of the Pacific Ocean. They were carrying out their usual deep-sea experiments, measuring voltage changes, tracking small currents, and checking how chemicals were reacting. Most of the time, these tests didn't bring any big surprises. They usually just confirmed things scientists already knew. But this time, something strange showed up on the monitors. The instruments picked up a tiny but constant electric signal, just about 1 volt. At first glance, that might not sound impressive. It's much weaker than the power needed to light even a small bulb. But to the scientists, it was a big deal. They were thousands of meters deep, in a place where the temperature, water pressure, and chemistry don't usually change. Everything is supposed to stay calm and predictable down there. So where was this gentle trickle of electricity coming from? There were no known power sources nearby. No animal was large enough to produce such a charge. To the researchers, it made no sense, yet the current kept flowing in a soft and stable way. The team double-checked their instruments. They even replaced some of the tools just to be sure it wasn't a technical glitch. But the signal was still there, just as steady as before. Something hidden in the darkness was quietly pushing electrons in one direction. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was slow and calm, the kind of thing you'd only notice if you were paying very close attention. But now that they had found it, they couldn't unsee it, and it opened up a whole world of new questions. Even though 1 volt seems small, it actually has a lot of power in the right setting. Tiny electrical currents can kickstart chemical reactions. That's one of the basic principles of electrochemistry. Given enough time, even low levels of electricity can change the makeup of a liquid. It's the same process that causes metal to rust in the ocean. It's how hot underwater vents release chemicals that support strange deep-sea creatures. It's the quiet, unseen way energy flows through places that seem completely still and lifeless. And now, that same quiet force was showing up where no one expected it. What was causing it? What was it doing? One thing was clear: something deep down was quietly at work, and it had just begun to whisper its secrets to the surface. The team couldn't figure out what exactly was causing the tiny electric flow they had picked up. There were no signs of movement, no living creatures like electric eels, and no changes in temperature. Everything that might normally explain such a current was missing. The whole area felt strange, almost as if the place itself had somehow wired itself up like a circuit. Some whispers started to float among the crew, quiet talk about chemical reactions that had never been studied before. Probably they thought that these reactions only happen under the crushing pressure found 5 kilometers beneath the surface of the sea. But the researchers didn't talk openly about what they had found, not because they were hiding anything, but because they simply didn't have enough answers yet. Still, among scientists, even a tiny spark of energy in the deep ocean means something big. It hints at a world of possibilities far beyond what anyone came looking for. But that wasn't enough, because there were plenty secrets about the ocean to be unveiled. Undersea special rock. Scientists have recently uncovered one of the ocean's most amazing and well-hidden secrets. According to them, deep down in the Pacific, far from light and life, there are rocks that somehow release oxygen into the water, even though there's no sunlight and no living creatures to help it happen. It sounds unbelievable, but it's real. This surprising discovery happened in a massive flat part of the ocean floor called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. For years, ocean researchers were puzzled by strange oxygen readings taken from this area. Their instruments kept picking up increases in oxygen levels inside their sealed devices at over 5,000 meters beneath the sea, where sunlight can't reach and the pressure could crush metal. At first, that didn't make sense, because they've always believed that oxygen in nature comes from living things, plants or bacteria using sunlight through photosynthesis. But here, oxygen was appearing where none should exist. Finally, after many years of hard work and curiosity, Dr. Andrew Sweetman and his team at the Scottish Association for Marine Science found the answer. The key was in strange, round stones scattered across the ocean floor. These are called polymetallic nodules, and companies have been chasing them for years because they're packed with valuable metals like manganese, cobalt, nickel, and copper. But these nodules are more than just metal-rich stones. They're acting like tiny natural batteries hidden deep in the sea. When these special rocks come into contact with salty seawater under the crushing weight of the deep ocean, they begin to create tiny electric currents. It's just enough energy to break apart water molecules through a process known as electrolysis, something humans use in factories to make oxygen and hydrogen. Slowly but surely, these rocks release oxygen gas into the water, while the hydrogen drifts away. This discovery of what scientists now call dark oxygen is something entirely new. It doesn't come from life. It comes from pure chemistry, deep in the Earth's most intense pressure zone. It's like nature is doing science experiments on its own, using physics and chemistry in ways we're only beginning to understand. The meaning of this breakthrough stretches across many different areas of science. For space scientists, this changes everything about the search for life beyond Earth. If rocky seafloors on distant ocean planets like Europa have the same kind of metal-rich stones, then they might also be creating oxygen without sunlight, opening up the chance for alien life in the darkest places. And for scientists studying Earth's history, this brings in a whole new idea. It's possible this type of oxygen creation happened long before plants and photosynthesis ever existed. That means they now have to rethink how oxygen showed up in Earth's ancient oceans. But this amazing news also comes with a serious warning. We already know that this discovery is taking place at the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, where deep-sea mining companies are preparing to dig. They want the metals in those nodules, but if they disturb them, they might also destroy a vital source of oxygen for deep-sea life. And we don't yet understand what that would do to the fragile balance of life in the ocean's untouched corners. Dr. Sweetman said this isn't just some fun scientific fact. It's a basic process of our planet that was hiding in plain sight all along. Now that we've seen it, we need to learn everything about it before we risk damaging it. These deep-sea metallic nodules are a powerful sign that Earth still has secrets waiting to be uncovered, not in the skies, but in the mysterious dark waters right here at home. And this brings us to how history can instantly change because of one discovery: redefining life on Earth. The discovery of dark oxygen has completely changed what we thought we knew about the ocean and how life can exist. For the longest time, everyone believed that oxygen, the gas that almost all life needs to survive, could only be made through sunlight and living things, like plants and bacteria. But now, something shocking has been found deep beneath the sea. Oxygen is being created in total darkness, without light, without life, and without photosynthesis. This is happening all because of a chemical reaction powered by tiny electric currents coming from special rocks filled with metals. These reactions have never been seen in nature before, and they're taking place in the coldest, darkest corners of the ocean floor. It's not just another scientific fact, it's a moment of awakening. If oxygen can appear in places like this, in such extreme and lifeless environments, then maybe we've been wrong about where life can survive. Worlds we once believed were too harsh to host any kind of life, like Mars, Jupiter's moon Europa, or Saturn's moon Enceladus, might actually have a chance. Maybe their hidden oceans or rocky surfaces could do the same thing our ocean floor does, quietly making oxygen without anyone noticing. But here's where things get really complicated. The same rocks that are causing this amazing process, called polymetallic nodules, are being targeted by mining companies. These stones are full of useful metals like cobalt and nickel, which are badly needed to make things like electric car batteries and green energy equipment. Big companies are already preparing to dig them up. That puts us in a tough situation. If we start removing these stones, could we be wiping out a natural oxygen source that we've only just begun to understand? What if sea creatures depend on this invisible process for survival, and we destroy it before we ever find them? At this point, it is obvious that what began as a simple mission to check oxygen levels at the bottom of the sea has now become a race against time. Scientists are rushing to learn more before this rare and mysterious system is damaged forever. For years, people believed the deep ocean was lifeless, just a silent, empty desert under thousands of meters of water. But now, it's turning out to be full of surprises. We may have stumbled upon something far bigger than we imagined. Not just that, it can even serve as a clue to understanding how life might survive, not just here on Earth, but in the farthest reaches of space. And it's all happening quietly, 5 kilometers beneath the surface, in a place so deep and still that even sunlight has never touched it. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.